My mother exploited me for 15 years while my brother did nothing. When I discovered she's leaving him the entire inheritance, I exposed her lies with evidence, and the family was left speechless. I'm 38 years old. I work in it for a logistics company, and for the last 15 years, I've basically been my mother's only functional child. Which, sounds bad, but it's literal. My younger brother Tyler lives 10 minutes away from her, and I'm 4 hours away driving. But guess who gets all the emergency calls at 3 in the morning when something breaks in her house, or when she needs someone to take her to the doctor, or when her computer stopped working because she forgot to plug it in? Spoiler alert. It's me. It's always been me. And for a long time I thought that's just how things were supposed to be because, she's my mom and you do what you have to do for family, right? But turns out there's a limit to everything. And I reached mine when I discovered something that basically blew up my entire perception of what family loyalty and sacrifice mean. Let me backtrack a bit so you understand the full context. My parents got divorced when I was like 12. Tyler was 7. And it was one of those ugly divorces where my dad basically disappeared afterward. He paid child support when he felt like it, which wasn't often, and eventually he moved to another state and started another family. Like, thanks for nothing, Dad. My mom, Diana, had to work 2 jobs for years to support us, and me, being the oldest, became the second adult in the house almost immediately. I took care of Tyler after school, made dinner most nights, made sure he did his homework, that kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong. I'm not looking for a medal for that. It's just how things were and you adapt. But I think from then on a pattern was established where I was the responsible one, and Tyler was the one who needed to be taken care of. The thing is, that pattern never changed. Not even when we grew up and formed our own lives. I went to college with student loans and a part-time job. Graduated, got a good job, met my wife Sarah when I was 25. We got married 2 years later, bought a house 3 hours from where I grew up. Then I got offered a promotion that required moving another hour away, and well, here we are. Tyler, on the other hand, took a completely different path. He dropped out of college after the first semester, worked temp jobs for years, could never keep anything stable for more than 6 months, and basically stayed living with Mom until he was 28. When he finally moved out, he got an apartment literally 10 minutes from her, same city, practically the same zip code. My mom retired like 6 years ago and moved into one of those retirement communities that are nice. It's not a nursing home or anything like that, but they're small apartments designed for older people with some amenities and services. It's in the same city where Tyler lives, obviously, because she wanted to be close to him. By then I was already established where I live now with Sarah and our 2 kids, a girl who's 8 and a boy who's 5. And honestly, I thought that with Tyler living so close, he was finally going to take on more responsibility with Mom. Big mistake on my part. What started happening was this. Mom would call me constantly. And when I say constantly, I mean at least 3 times a week, sometimes more. Like if her washing machine was making a weird noise, if she needed help setting up her new TV, if the hot water wasn't working, if she had a doctor's appointment and didn't want to drive alone, if she needed help filling out her tax return, literally anything. And I, like the dedicated idiot I was, would drive those 4 hours every time, sometimes missing days of work, spending gas money that wasn't cheap, leaving Sarah alone with the kids, all to solve problems that Tyler, who lived 10 minutes away, could perfectly well handle. But no, Tyler was always busy, or wouldn't answer his phone, or had some excuse for why he couldn't help. And here comes the part that made my blood boil. Every time Tyler made the minimum effort, like stopping by to drop off some food or helping her change a light bulb, Mom treated him like he'd discovered the cure for cancer. Oh, Tyler is so thoughtful. Tyler remembered me. Tyler this and Tyler that. Meanwhile, I could spend an entire weekend fixing her bathroom that was falling apart, painting her living room, organizing all her medical documents. And all I got was a casual, "Thanks, mijo," and then another list of things she needed me to do next time. I wasn't expecting her to throw me a parade or anything, but the difference in how she treated us was so obvious that even Sarah noticed it and would tell me, "Marcus, your mom is taking advantage of you." And I'd always defend her saying, "No, it's just that she needs me, she's my mom." But wait, because it gets worse. Not only did Tyler not help with anything practical, But he also constantly asked Mom for money, and she gave it to him, every time, without fail. Like if he needed to pay rent because he'd gotten fired from another job, if his car had broken down, if he had credit card debts, there was always something. And Mom, who lived on a retirement check that wasn't exactly generous, would give him the money. Then she'd call me because she didn't have enough for her medication or to pay some bill, and guess who ended up sending her money? Yeah, me, the one who lived 4 hours away and had his own family to support. This went on like this for years, literal years, and I started to feel the weight of it all. Sarah would tell me I needed to set boundaries, that this wasn't sustainable, that our kids missed me on weekends because I was always driving to go help Mom, that our finances were suffering because I was constantly sending her money that then ended up in Tyler's pocket indirectly. But I felt guilty, you know what I mean? Like if I stopped helping, it meant I was a bad son, that I was abandoning my mom when she needed me. Plus, she always had a way of making me feel bad if I didn't respond immediately to her calls, or if I said I couldn't go that weekend because we had family plans. But there was a moment that was like a small explosion in this whole dynamic. Tyler called me, which almost never happened because he basically never initiated contact with me unless he needed something, and asked to borrow $2,000. $2,000. Just like that. Like it was nothing. He told me it was an emergency, that he was going to lose his apartment if he didn't pay back rent, and I exploded. I said, "Are you fucking kidding me right now? You live 10 minutes from Mom and never help her with anything? You're always taking money from her. And now you're calling me to lend you money?" And he got defensive, saying I didn't understand his situation, that he was going through a hard time. I hung up on him. Honestly, I couldn't keep listening without saying something I'd regret later. After that call, something changed in me. I started questioning why I was doing all this. Why Tyler could live his life without any responsibility, while I was breaking my back trying to be in 2 places at once. I started setting small boundaries, like not answering Mom's messages immediately, or saying I couldn't go that weekend because we had family plans. And honestly, every time I did it, I felt super guilty, but also a little liberated, you know? Then something happened that changed absolutely everything. A friend of my mom's, Patricia, called me one day. I barely knew her. I'd seen her at some family gatherings, but we weren't close or anything, so it was strange that she called me. She said she needed to talk to me about something important related to my mom, and I thought, great, another emergency. But what she told me was completely different. Patricia told me she'd been at Mom's apartment having coffee. Mom had stepped out for a moment to take a call and had left some documents open on the table. Patricia didn't want to pry, but she'd seen something that made her feel she should tell me, and it was Mom's will, or more specifically, information about how she was going to distribute her inheritance. She told me, and I can literally remember her exact words because I froze when I heard them. "Marcus, your mom is planning to leave absolutely everything to Tyler. The house she'd inherited from my grandparents and now rented out, her savings, everything." Patricia told me she felt I should know, because she'd seen for years how much I sacrificed for my mom while Tyler did nothing, and it seemed unfair that I wasn't aware. I sat in my car after that call for like 20 minutes, literally couldn't process what I'd just heard. The first time I confronted Mom about the will was over the phone, and the conversation was surreal. I asked her directly if it was true that she was going to leave everything to Tyler, and there was a long silence before she said, "Well, yes, that's my decision." I asked her why, after everything I'd done, all the sacrifices, all the money I'd given her, all the time I'd invested, and her answer was like a punch in the stomach. She told me, "Marcus, you're doing fine. You have a good job, a nice house, a stable family. You don't need my help. Tyler needs that support because he doesn't have what you have." As if the fact that I'd worked hard to build my life meant I deserved less, or worse, that I deserved nothing. I told her it wasn't fair, that the fact that I was responsible shouldn't mean she took me for granted, that for years I'd put her well-being above my own family's, that I'd sacrificed time with my kids to be there for her, and that now discovering that all of that meant nothing was devastating. And you know what she told me? She told me I was being selfish, that the inheritance shouldn't matter to me if I really loved her, that she knew I'd be fine without that money, but Tyler wouldn't. Basically, She was telling me that my reward for being the good son was to keep being the good son without expecting anything in return, while Tyler, who had treated her like an ATM for years, was going to be rewarded with everything. After that call, something broke in me. I told Sarah everything, and she, who had been asking me for years to set boundaries, hugged me and said, "You have every right to be angry. This is completely unfair." I made a decision that night. I wasn't going to keep being the son who solved everything. The next time, Mom called asking for financial help because Tyler had asked her for money, again, and she didn't have enough for, I don't know what, Bill. I said no. Just like that, no. She asked me why. I told her she'd made it very clear that Tyler was her priority and that he could start solving his own problems, and hers too, since he was going to receive everything eventually. Mom got furious, told me I was being cruel. How could I abandon her like this, that she'd raised me and sacrificed so much for me? And I told her, exactly, you sacrificed for me, and I've spent the last 15 years sacrificing for you. But apparently Tyler, who's never sacrificed anything, is the one who deserves to be rewarded. I didn't yell or anything. Honestly, I was very calm because I finally felt like I was standing up for myself after so long. I told her if she needed help. Tyler lived 10 minutes away, and it was time for him to start being the son she clearly wanted him to be. The following weeks were shit. I'm not going to lie. Mom tried calling me several times. I didn't answer all the calls. When I did, I kept the conversations short and didn't agree to what she asked. Sarah supported me completely, constantly reminded me I was doing the right thing, that I couldn't keep burning myself out for people who didn't value my effort. But the kids noticed I was more present on weekends, and honestly that made me feel good, like I was finally prioritizing what really mattered. Then, like 2 months after I started setting these boundaries, I got a call from my Aunt Linda, Mom's sister, and she was upset, but not at me. She was upset about what she'd been told. She asked me why I'd abandoned Mom when she needed me, and I was confused, like, what are you talking about? Linda told me that Mom had been calling several family members, telling them I'd abandoned her, that I wouldn't answer her calls, that I refused to help her with basic things, basically painting me as the terrible son who decided to cut contact for no reason. She didn't mention anything about Tyler, nothing about the will, nothing about all the years I'd been there, while he did absolutely nothing. I stayed quiet processing this, and Linda told me several relatives were disappointed in me, that they couldn't believe I was treating my mom like this after everything she'd done for me. That's when I decided I wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. I told Linda the whole story, from the beginning, all the trips, all the money, all the times. Tyler took advantage of Mom, and I had to bail her out, everything about the will, everything. Linda was silent for a long while and then said, "Marcus, I had no idea. Mom didn't tell us any of this. She told us a completely different story." I asked Linda to give me a few days, because I was going to gather evidence of everything I was saying. I spent that weekend printing emails, screenshots of texts, bank statements showing all the transfers I'd made to Mom, gas and hotel receipts from all my trips, basically anything that proved I'd been there constantly, while Tyler was conspicuously absent. Sarah helped me organize it all into a kind of timeline that clearly showed the pattern of years of behavior. I made copies and sent them to several key family members, including Linda, other aunts and uncles, some cousins that Mom had contacted with her lies. I included a letter explaining my complete version of events, without drama, just facts. That for years, I'd sacrificed time with my family, money, weekends, vacations, everything to be there for Mom. That Tyler lived 10 minutes away and rarely helped. That Mom had decided to leave her entire inheritance to Tyler because I was doing fine and didn't need it. That when I finally set boundaries because it wasn't sustainable anymore, she decided to paint me as the villain instead of admitting she'd taken my dedication for granted for years. The reaction was almost immediate. Linda called me first, apologizing for having judged me without knowing the whole story, saying now everything made sense and that she and other relatives were going to talk to Mom. Other relatives started contacting me, expressing shock at what they'd read. Several admitted they'd always noticed I did much more than Tyler, but didn't know to what extent. Some said they were going to confront Mom about the lies she'd been spreading. Tyler, who apparently Mom had run to tell everything, tried to do damage control. He sent me long messages saying I was exaggerating, that he also helped Mom in his own way, that it wasn't his fault Mom wanted to support him more because he needed it. Basically every excuse you can imagine. I responded once, telling him that for years he'd had the opportunity to be a present son and had chosen not to be, and that now that Mom had declared him the heir to everything, he could start acting like it and take on the responsibilities that came with it. He didn't write me again after that. Mom called me eventually, and it was a mix of angry and defensive. She didn't apologize for the lies she'd been spreading. Instead, she tried to justify herself, saying she was just expressing how she felt, that from her perspective I'd abandoned her, and that she didn't understand why I'd involved the whole family in our private matters. I told her she'd involved the family first by lying about me, and that I'd simply presented my version with proof. I told her that for years I'd been there for her in ways Tyler never was, and that the fact that she couldn't recognize or value that had shown me exactly where I stood in her priorities. I explained that I wasn't going to keep sacrificing my own family's well-being for someone who clearly didn't value that sacrifice. That if she needed help, Tyler was 10 minutes away and it was time for him to start being the son she needed. I told her I respected her right to distribute her inheritance however she wanted, but that I also had the right to decide how much of myself I was going to keep giving to such an unbalanced relationship. The conversation ended without real resolution. We both held our positions, and we haven't talked much since then. I cut contact almost completely with both of them. Mom and Tyler. It was a difficult decision. I'm not going to pretend it wasn't, because part of me still feels guilty, still wonders if I'm being too harsh, or if I should try to repair things. But Sarah constantly reminds me you can't repair something where only one person is willing to change, and that I already spent too many years trying to be enough for someone who was never going to value me the way I needed. I did one thing that helped with the guilt. I set up an automatic anonymous monthly deposit into Mom's account. It's not much, like $200, enough to help with some basic things, but not so much that she can keep depending on me like she used to. I did it more for my peace of mind than for her, so I could sleep knowing I was at least contributing something without having to get emotionally involved. She doesn't know it's me, and I plan to keep it that way. It's been like 8 months since all this, and honestly I feel more at peace than I'd felt in years. I spend my weekends with my kids. Sarah and I have been able to save more because I'm not constantly sending money to Mom. I've been more present at work because I'm not getting distracted with constant emergency calls. Some relatives still keep in touch with me and ask how I'm doing, which is nice. It means some of them understood my perspective after seeing the evidence. I don't know how all this will end eventually. I suppose someday Mom is going to get older and need more help, and I don't know how I'm going to feel at that moment or what I'm going to decide to do. For now, I'm focused on the people who value my presence and my effort, which would be my wife and my kids. They don't take me for granted. They celebrate when I do things for them, no matter how small. And that's what I deserve. What we all deserve, honestly. Sometimes I miss the relationship I thought I had with my mom, but I think that relationship never really existed the way I believed it did. It was more something I'd built in my head because I wanted to believe all that sacrifice meant something to her. What hurts the most isn't so much the inheritance itself. The money wasn't really the point, although obviously it hurts to feel like years of financial sacrifice are worth nothing. What really hurts is the lack of recognition. The fact that she could see everything I did and everything Tyler didn't do, and still decide he deserved to be rewarded. It's like my punishment for being responsible was that I was expected to keep being responsible without any kind of reciprocity or appreciation, while Tyler could live without responsibilities and still receive everything. That's the part I still have trouble processing. But anyway, here I am, living my life, focusing on what really matters. My daughter asked me the other day why we don't visit Grandma as much anymore, and I told her the truth in an age-appropriate way. That sometimes family relationships are complicated, and it's okay to set boundaries when someone isn't treating you well, even if it's family. I hope that's a lesson she and her brother carry with them when they grow up. That they don't have to sacrifice themselves to the point of exhaustion for people who don't value that sacrifice, no matter who those people are.